Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Preparation Tech. Preparation Tech is an interview series where I interview tradespeople, students, and professionals in different fields and industries about the job they do, the work they do, the projects they do, and how it intersects with technology. Today, I'm really super excited to be talking to a husband and wife duo who run an amazing design agency in Toronto called Sali Tabacchi. So let's get started. This is a great interview for kids who are interested in art, in design, in drawing, painting, these kinds of things, because there's a lot you can do with these skills, especially when you layer technology skills on top. So welcome, Henry and Melissa. And I want to ask you, first of all, tell us what you do, what it is that you do. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes to actually explain this.
Hello, everyone. Yes, we are graphic designers. So we design logos, books, magazines, websites, packaging for a variety of clients. We use ideas and technology throughout the day. So with the ideas, we try to understand our clients' needs and where they want to go and who they are. And then we use technology to visualize those ideas. So whether that's something digital on a website, or a little animation, or a logo that kind of expresses who they are at their core. It's a very fun job. It's every day is different, and it's nice to look back after some time has passed and look at all the cool things that we've created with a bunch of cool people. Sometimes by ourselves, sometimes with other partners who are specialists. Whether it's programmers who can program at a higher level, then we assemble teams as needed. So it's every day is different, and yeah, it's a fun way to if you're creative, to express some of that creativity and then collaborate with clients who have ambitions. You can be a part of that.
Awesome, and I can imagine that it's a pretty fast pace with lots of deadlines as well.
Yes, deadlines are a big part of it. It's all project-based work, and so working with people around the world in different time zones. And sometimes when they contact us, the deadlines are already quite tight. And sometimes, but not always. But it's something you have to be kind of flexible and responsive to. Every day is a bit different. Sometimes you're working to the night, but if you like what you do, it doesn't really feel like work always. So it's you're kind of working together on something to make something as nice as you can possibly make it.
Great. Tell us a bit about your projects, just to give us a sense of the kind of work that you do.
Do you want to?
Well, it's very varied. I have to say, we generally try to keep all the projects in a, we try to distill the ideas down to its basic form. So we're not creating something that's superfluous, like we're not with a lot of details and things. But what we try to do is take the ideas, and whatever the needs of the projects are, that's what we work on. So if it is a website, I can give an example of a pretty cool website that we created recently. It was for an architect agency or an architect firm, and they're called Raw Design. And with that, we actually created a really fun website for them. We wanted to show the personality of the firm and the people that work there. It was a bit of a departure from a typical portfolio site, not just showing big, beautiful photos, but actually showing who they are in a sort of visual, fun way. And when we went to meet with them, because we always like to meet clients in their space and sort of get to know them, have conversations and discussions and brainstorms, we noticed that they had like a bookshelf on one side of the room that was, each cubby was per project. So each one of their projects contained all the little elements and pieces and files and samples and whatever of that project. And we were quite inspired by that. So one of the options we presented was the website sort of emulated this bookshelf, and we called it sort of the magic bookshelf. And each cubby has its own little bit in it. So each of those holes in the cubby represents a page on the website. So it could be a project, it could be the person, a little animated GIF. They also do a lot of experiential work, the installations, art pieces at festivals, street, things that they just create. And we wanted to show those as well. So some of the actual squares and buttons represent videos of those installations. So you feel like you're there, you're seeing it. It's very like a cool thing to kind of experience online. And also we created some custom video op art kind of patterns and experiences that are sort of out there, but to completely represented them, and they were very happy by their by the website, and they felt like they were all represented because each person had, like, their favorite food, or their bike, because that was their thing, and or like a cup of coffee because that's that's what they live for. But it was very, very fun, and a really fun group of people. We even took their profile images. Like usually, you have your profile image on your page, and you have your description, and you went to school here, and you have these degrees. But we actually took them all and sliced them all up and created a game that sort of mix and matches everyone's face. So we create these kind of Frankenstein faces, and it's super fun. And anyone going to the site can play with it. And they were very relaxed about having their faces, done this to their faces. And overall, very fun project, and not your typical portfolio site or for architect site. I think it was a really fun.
Yeah.
And the technology behind it was really cool because we were able to work with a developer that we work with a lot, Mevo. They were able to come in, and they always say to us, whatever you want, whatever you can imagine, we can build it. And we love working with people like that, because sometimes, we do a lot of technology stuff here too, but with websites, it's very specialized, and they are able to take our vision and sort of create exactly what we need, and really great experience. And we love working with people like that.
So the next thing I'm going to do after this interview is over is go to this site. It's called Raw Architecture?
Rawdesign.ca.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to play with that. This leads into my next question, which is, what kind of professionals do you work with? Like, so you said you're working with Mevo, which is kind of like a tech, they do the programming and stuff like that. What other kinds of technologists are you working with on some of your projects?
Well, some of them are, a bit old school, like printers. I mean, we do still do a lot of, ink on paper kind of stuff, but it's not just any printers. I mean, we work with a lot of specialized printers, one in particular, and a couple that we use often, and it's very specialized, even though it feels like it's kind of archaic sometimes with printing, it's just ink on paper, but it's so scientific. And getting down to like the paper choices and the feel and like how is it stitched together and all this kind of stuff. It's a complete art in itself. It's not just, your digital printer down the street. It's very specialized. And so we love working with them. We also work with copywriters, photographers, illustrators. Also, with illustration and photography, I mean, it can also be seen as like fine art, or like something that's not as, it's not commercial, but using it in a way that expresses the idea is very important. It's that sort of like, not, again, like touchy-feely, but in a different way. Like photography will give so much feeling to a project. And if you're illustrating an editorial piece, sometimes that could be even more powerful than a photography or something you do with the layout. So it's sort of like low tech in a way, but it really influences the end result. So we kind of like mixing, we like the pick up a paintbrush and paint, and then, or draw fonts or make an animation online, or on a computer, but having them both, that's such a great mix. It gives it like a lot of life.
Great. So I'm talking to you guys, and obviously you're really super enthusiastic about design and art and printing and everything. Tell us, how did you get to be Henry and Melissa of Sali Tabacchi, running your own design studio, making beautiful things, cutting, slicing and dicing architects' faces and stuff like that? What was the path that you took from childhood? Take us back to your childhood. Tell us about what you were like as a child, and then how that kind of moved into schooling and to where you are today.
Well, as a kid, I was drawing constantly. I was very visual. I wasn't into reading so much, but I did like drawing things. I would find myself drawing letters sometimes, breaking them down, understanding it before I even knew what typography was. I'd be just drawing it on my own and figuring it out. And then painting as a teenager. And I actually went into university for fine art. And they didn't have design degrees when I went to school. It was a fine arts degree, and they did some design within that. And so for the first year I took, they made you take, you know, I was mainly on visual stuff, so painting and drawing, but then they said the program insisted that you take fine arts outside of your course. So I had to take interdisciplinary art and more conceptual stuff because they wanted you to have a broad understanding of other arts. And that was very helpful. And then I was also started taking philosophy courses because I was thinking about meanings and what things mean. And then in the second year, I took more fine arts courses. And then I saw all my other classmates in these rooms with computers, and I didn't pick any of those courses. I'm like, what do they know that I don't? So in that second year, I was like, you know, always looking at what are they up to? I feel like I missed the boat. I didn't get, you know, I didn't know about that stuff. And, but I was still taking more philosophy and painting and drawing, and understanding art history and how different styles of communication over time and what things mean and the rich world of art history from around the world. And then in the third year, I started taking computer courses, but then I felt like I had more of this overall base. And then once I got in, then all that stuff from a childhood, when I was drawing letters, it started to be, oh, this is actually like a job, and this is super fun. And I also liked when I was a kid, I had a computer and I you know, enjoyed working with it, but I never thought of that as a serious thing. And then, yeah, in that third year, I was like, wow, you can apply your visual stuff on this new medium, a computer, and you can create stuff for printing or for online or animations, and it opened up this whole new multi-dimension universe. And then I took more of that, and I still took painting and philosophy on the side because I was what things mean and getting my hands dirty. But this was a fun thing to have at my fingertips. And then I finished with the Bachelor of Fine Arts, and then I got a job at a great studio. And I was like a dry sponge walking in, and it was a great team there, and everyone on the team really tried to teach me their role, and so I just soaked it all up. The first 6 months, it was like insane, just learning from everyone, taking their time to I was trying to be nice to everyone and a good listener, and then I soaked it all up, and then never looked back. But if you're visual and creative, graphic design is a great outlet to use technology to do all kinds of things.
Great. Melissa.
Well, similarly, growing up, you know, always drawing, sketching, making crafts, like, you know, painting things and drawing letter forms as well. Just kind of also not knowing that this was a thing. And, you know, I was also really into sports. You know, I love playing, like being physical, getting like soccer teams and field hockey and all that stuff. And, you know, I think even in high school, it was weird. I took like physics and like computer science and stuff, which seems really crazy for somebody really into art. But then, you know, I really enjoyed that too. I really liked the idea of like, there's other things out there. And if you're soaking in all the other things like science or like a sports or something that's totally not design related, I found that design was kind of like an umbrella of like, it's kind of like an empty shell in a way. And you're sort of taking all those other things and design kind of frames the other things. Like design in itself, you can't like design, right? So it's more like it's actually using other influences. So I really liked that aspect of, you know, sort of learning things about many varied subjects. And yeah, in same university, we both went to York University here in Toronto. And same thing, fine arts program. But you know, we did have to take other things. Like I took dance and things that, like, you know, I'm so uncoordinated. It was amazing. Like it was amazing. But the experience was cool. And just but that all kind of fed into designing, because you weren't just self-referentiating. It was more just you know, you were taking those other sources. Yeah, so then starting at a small studio, also the same studio, we started working together. We didn't really know each other at school, but we started working together. But same thing, I learned so much on the job as well. But I think that idea of, you know, telling kids and students these days, I think, you know, not focusing too much on only design. Like if you're into art and design, that's great. But I think like really touching other things will absolutely help sort of keep you more well-rounded, you know, like dabble in science or take like, you know, writing courses and philosophy and other things. It'll all help. It may not seem like it at the time, but it does, it will all come back and sort of be super helpful.
But also to still follow those interests. Like if you're really interested in something, I mean, I didn't major in philosophy, but I took a lot of courses in it, and I don't think it even amounted to anything official, but I was just curious, and I wanted to learn about that anyways. And so I did. And I found that was helpful in terms of thinking about meaning when you're doing a logo, designing a logo, think about meaning in the things that you make, and understanding that there's different kinds of meaning, and crafting that to your in a way that's useful. And I must say that when we were at the studio in Toronto, we had a great time and learned a lot. But then you know, the internet started evolving, and we discovered Dutch design, and we're blown away. And so we visited Amsterdam and loved it. And then we decided to try to get jobs in Amsterdam, because it felt like a different kind of design that really felt fulfilling to us in terms of being an audience from afar. And then, so we got jobs at Art Mix, both of us, and we worked there for about 4 years. And that was a great experience to be in a place that was just super inspiring, and working with people doing the design as we did in Toronto, but it was a different way. And that was really interesting. It is in a different language. And that was a really a great experience, because it really used a lot of muscles in our heads that, you know, it was a very fun experience to live abroad, and to work with other people who you do technical things, but in a different way, and to learn a different style and in a different language.
Great. And I know your work from Holland, as we know. It's funny that you mentioned philosophy, because I hear from a lot of technologists that some of the most important courses they took, in addition to their professional courses or technical courses, was philosophy. So David Hansen, who I interviewed a couple months ago, who's the world's leading human-like robot inventor, talked about how he dove into philosophy. What is consciousness? Can you bring machines to life? What are the implications of that? So I think that's a lesson for parents, teachers, and guidance counselors, to really encourage kids to take philosophy courses.
Yeah. I mean, not because then you feel like, oh, so you're going to be a philosopher when you grow up. Like, no, it helps in indirect ways. Now, I can't like draw a direct line, but it at least helps you understand that, you know, one philosopher had this worldview and they tried to rationalize it, and then another philosopher thinks something else, but you understand that there's different ways of thinking about the same thing, that they're the same issues, and they try to approach it in different ways, and to understand that there's more than one way at least. And then, you know, if you're trying to solve a problem, whether it's through expressing an idea or a technology, or trying to code something or make something on a computer, that maybe there's another way to approach it. And that at least gives you that you're not just stuck in one way kind of mentality, that it just opens you up. And I think that at a very high level is very helpful, that if you're kind of getting stuck on something, just approach it from another way. Just like every philosopher has a different approach, and to understand that I found that very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm. So maybe a tough or sensitive question, but you guys have known each other for a while. You've worked together. You're running a design studio together. You are the parents of children, 2 children. Tell us, because a lot of people will say, like, I want to do something, but I don't want to do it alone. So they need a partner or they need a team. Can you talk about the advantages and disadvantages of working as partners?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of both. I think that there is a huge advantage as we're always working. So, you know, is it on and off? And the disadvantage is we're always working. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I mean, it is difficult to separate work life balance. I'm not really sure what that is actually, but it is. we met working. You know, we met at a Toronto studio. We were junior designers. We were like, you know, cutting things up in the basement, and we were like got to know each other. Then, you know, we moved to Amsterdam together. Working actually in Toronto, we worked for a couple. So they were a couple. We moved to Amsterdam to work there for a few years. We worked for a couple. We also worked in the same studio. So then it all seemed very normal that people can do this. So we thought, you know, and then coming back, we thought it was a logical step to start our own studio, working together. I mean, we get along in business and in life. So why not? And we're compatible in both those ways. And also, you know, we tend to, in our work life, we work with a lot of architects, and we also found that there are a lot of couples. So it just feels like these creative careers that are very time consuming. I mean, we spend a lot of time working, but at least we're together. You know, I think it would be really difficult. I mean, as far as this is only from my experience, but I think it would be really difficult if you're trying to do this kind of work and you were sort of separated from your partner. You would never see them. Like it would just, so I think, you know, it's just logical that we just do everything together. And it seems to work for us. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, the partner might not understand if you have to work late on a project that is due tomorrow, that you need to work a little bit extra. Design is sort of a lifestyle. It is a hard thing to shut off at 5 o'clock. That sometimes it does spill over. I mean, some people do, and I think there may be there's pros and cons to that, and there's also pros and cons to treating it like the way we do. But we like to push the designs, and sometimes, you know, it means working here and there, and it's a balance. Sometimes, but if you're not happy with what you're working on and you want to work a little bit extra until you are happy, and then those are some of the demands, but those are choices that we make as we go. But yeah, it's because we've been working together as long as we've known each other. It would be weird if we were working separate at this point. But yeah, I think that working with other couples along our path, it just seemed like a normal thing to do, because you are kind of always working as designers if you're answering emails from people around the world, and you just want to keep things going.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you mentioned kids. Yes, we do have 2 kids, sort of youngish ages, and I mean, they keep us in check often, you know, saying like, yes, you know, we have to take breaks and do things with them. I mean, that's how it works. And so, you know, weekends, we try to really take off, evenings, you know, when we can. Like it is a balance, and we do have to work hard at it. And it is something that we're very conscious about. And it is difficult sometimes, but we definitely make time to spend with family and with the kids, and doing things that are not design, even though they always come back to design, because everything is, you know, you're out there, you're influenced by a sign, you're influenced by a store, you're influenced by like a place that we travel to. You can't turn it off, you know, so.
Exactly. So I guess the word of warning is it is a lifestyle, like Henry said, and you're just always stimulated, which is a great thing if you're that kind of person that feeds on this.
Yeah, and we like what we do, so it doesn't feel like work always. I mean, sometimes it does if you have to write a long email at night, but if you're doing something creative, then it doesn't feel like work, and it's it's a challenge, and you feel like you're passing, you're trying to succeed at it, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it must be like childbirth. You're constantly giving birth to these great ideas and projects and stuff. So it's also something for people. Like some people just love to work on the same thing day in, day out, right? But with the business that you're in and the design work that you do, it's always something fresh and new. It's always a new challenge. There's a new set of people. So that can be really exciting if you're that type of person that likes that.
Yes, every day is different, and you might be starting a project, or in the middle of a project, or wrapping a project up,
or all at once,
or all at once. And so during the day, you're bouncing between things, but sometimes there is a really big project that you spend the whole day on, and that's great too. But it's not like that for the whole year. It might be for a few days, and then you move on to something else, and it's a lot of time management, and trying to give the right amount of time at the right moments at certain milestones. And it's, but I mean, if we like working like that, it depends on your personality. If you want more structure, then you can arrange it like that. And some design jobs are more structured. If you work at a magazine, or if you're an in-house developer at a company, then your day would be more regular. But at a studio like ours, it changes many times during the day, and that's just the nature of our studio. But other studios would be arranged differently.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point to make. I mean, you can say, we're in graphic design, but that's really there's so many different ways to practice graphic design. I mean, that you could be like a single freelance person that kind of goes into ad agencies when needed, and you're sort of working there or working for them on a specific project. You could be in-house at a big company, and you're just in their design department working on stuff with a team there, but the whole company isn't centered around design. You're sort of just doing the work that they need, by project basis there. Or you can be in an ad agency and be, the graphic design department, which happens often, where there is the advertising side of things, but there's also a design department. Or you can be we're a boutique agency, we say, a boutique firm, and then we're 3 people. You could be doing your own thing, and that it offers flexibility, but at the same time, we have to do everything. So it's you don't have the account people dealing with all the clients, like we deal with the clients. Like you don't have the accounting department that deals with all your the business side, and we do the business side too. So it is you have to kind of figure out what how much you want to take on. In terms of a day-to-day, if you just sit there and you just want to do layouts and people give you the charts and you have to lay them out, there's probably a job for you. If you want to do a little bit of everything like we do, you can definitely do that too. It really depends, but it's all considered graphic design. Yeah. So there's lots of range there.
This is just how we've approached it with the projects that we happen to work on, and the balance of what we do, since we do print and web. So it's going to be a mix, and branding, it's going to be a mix. But then there's some places that are more focused on only branding or only web, and they don't touch other things. So it's really depends on what you want to do, or hand off other projects to others as you wish.
Great. Okay, I've got 2 last questions because we got to wrap up the interview. This has been amazing because I think it really gives folks a clear understanding of what designers do. And I'm so glad, Melissa, that you went over the different shades of a designer. You can be this kind or whatever. That's really important to know. So my next question is, what is the mindset and what are the personal characteristics of people who are successful in graphic design and branding?
Do you want to answer that?
Well, it's a mix. You have to have a mix of talents. There is a technology aspect for sure. You have to use software. Sometimes you have to be your own IT person. Unless you work in a big studio, then you have an IT person available. There's also people skills when you meet a client to understand what they might need as personally and also as a business. And so there's a lot of meeting or research or getting to know them to understand before you get onto the computer what should we be doing? How are we going to solve this problem? There are listening skills and thinking skills. But once you're starting the project, it's learning, knowing the software, and also learning new software if you want to learn. If you're a logo designer, but then there's something like a program called After Effects where you can animate things. If you want to animate the logo, then that's something you can learn that either through an official course or on your own. So you're always learning technology in this field. And when we started as designers, the internet wasn't really a big thing, and it's obviously grown into a very big thing. And when we started, we were doing mainly print and working with print software and printers. But over time, there's more online and social media as well. And so that's now more than half our projects are digital kind of things. And so it's being able to change. So the skills you learn in leaving school, you need to be able to adapt and stay on top of it. If we only stayed print designers, these days it might be a little bit more difficult to run a business. So you need to evolve into things that maybe animate or how they work digitally or social media, or if people need templates to continue on their own, to be able to service those kinds of things. So it's a whole host of skills I think are needed, technological or people skills.
I think, like, just to add to that, some personal skills, like the soft skills, I guess, is like, I would say you need a lot of patience with the process, with the people that you're working with, all the personalities. It's also sometimes the patience to stick with a project until it's done. Sometimes it could be a quick 2-week project, but sometimes it's a 2-year project, and you have to kind of find a way to stay motivated and to keep interested and stay with it to get it done. Because in the end, you still want it to be great at the end. And also the ability to see the big picture of like what the entire project is about, what's the theme, what's the essence of it, but then also getting down to like the details, like the minute, really tiny things that you have to like check to all those things. So it's like everything.
Yeah.
so you kind of have to have that in you to sort of, see the big picture and also the details and that patience of just sticking with it.
And to be able to work some projects we work all like on our own, but sometimes you need to work with external specialists, and to be able to be collaborative and to create something with someone you've never worked with before necessarily, and it has to happen sometimes very quickly. And sometimes when you get to work with the same people over again and to have a good relationship, because you want, there's more projects coming up, and then you want to be someone good to work with. Or if you're in a studio, be able to help other people out around you, and to be a collaborative person within a studio environment, because you're all on the same team. And so there's different people skills, whether a boutique like us or in a big office situation. So it's a mix of technical and people skills.
Yeah, great.
And when we went to school, I remember one of the things that they were saying, okay, here's the software you need to know. And we were hoping that the teacher would teach us the software, but they were of the mind like, no, you have to learn that on your own. I'm going to teach you ideas and concepts
and what to do.
Yes.
How to like think about things, and it's
Yes.
like, oh, how you put it together, you figure that out.
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
So then back then there was you had to put headphones on, and there was a disc, and there was a tutorial. It was painful and long, but
there was no YouTube video showing you.
So we learned it, and then we had to apply our ideas within that software. But it made us, because the software is always going to change. That software that we learned at school,
it's not.
I don't think it's used
obsolete,
much anymore.
Obsolete.
So, but the approach of having an idea first is still around and relevant. But the specific software, even after that, the versions went up they upgraded. And so it changed so much that you'd have to relearn it every couple of years anyways. And then something new came along, and then everyone was learning that. So to understand that the technology will change, and what the software I'm using today might not be the same software in 5 years. And then I'm going to have to learn that at that point. So just to be open and to be able to learn those kinds of things. And I mean, some of the software bits are easy to learn. And if you knew the old one, then learning the new one is pretty like a clean line, but there's some little differences. But now there's YouTube, and you can look up, or Google, look up how to do anything in a minute. So that's very helpful as well.
Absolutely. Self-learning, lifelong learning. My last question. So do you have any concrete tips for parents, teachers, and school guidance counselors? Say they have kids that are totally into art and design and painting. What can they be doing to really nurture their interest in that field, but also to acquire these technology skills that we keep coming back to?
I think, well, these days, I mean, you definitely, you can learn the software at school, but I would go back to that. I wouldn't go to school just to learn the software. I would try to use the school to help you use the software in ways that you want it. So it's it's more of a support than just going to software school. But I would encourage parents to know that there is work, there are careers for people who are very visual and creative, and as when we went to school, the internet didn't exist, and now there's a whole industry of programmers and web designers that who knows what it will be like in 10 years, but just to get a good ground base of knowing ideas and to understand the technology, and that it will turn into something much bigger in the future, that the internet as we know it today is going to be probably much more evolved in 5-10 years, and just be ready for that, I think. And it's kind of exciting because things are getting faster and better and more alive. And
I guess the main point is not to discount, you like to draw at school as a non-starter. Like it's like there's no future in being an artist. I mean, that seems like, some parents have that idea, but I think like as a stepping stone, you could become a famous artist, but the chances are, it is a lot harder than if you apply those in a more sort of business savvy way, or using technology to sort of work. There's so many fields that employ someone who's really good at working with visual things. So I think like, even if it's not strictly like graphic design, where you're actually putting shapes and images and things on together, there's so many, like with the technology, AI, so many fields that you could be working in if you're just like drawing when you're 8. So
what about your own kids? What do you encourage them to draw and paint and sculpt and these kind of things? I'm always curious how designers nurture their own children.
Well, I think we do try to read with them, but our first instinct is to do something visual, because that's something we feel like we're a bit more fluent in. So they seem to like it, but we'll find out if they want. It's
also I feel like just because there are children and we like to do all those things, and we went into a visual art graphic design field, I don't feel like it's like a given that they will be too.
Yeah.
I think, they could be really into like more numbers and math, which I was never really strong in, but that could be a possibility. And I think we're seeing that their interests aren't exactly the same as ours. And I find that fascinating, because I just thought, oh, there's like mini us, they would just like all the same things, and we could just draw on our experiences. But I think we can't do that. I think they're very individualized, and I think that they need to find their own pathway. But I think, we encourage whatever they're really passionate about and interested in. I think that's, and like my parents, they encouraged whatever I was interested in, because I was serious. And even if it was art, but I was interested in it, and I found a way to make it into a career. And I think that's the main. So I think we're going to try to encourage whatever they end up being really passionate about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And this is, again, advice that I've heard from a lot of people that I've interviewed. Let the child lead, and your role as a parent is to support their hobbies and their passions. So, and if it's design, well, that's even great. The world needs more and more designers, you know, and philosophers too. So guys, thank you so much. This has been a great interview. And I think, again, it's really, really important for parents to hear from you and to know that a child that's really oriented towards the visual, there's a lot of career opportunities, a lot of study paths, a lot of self-learning paths that are available to them. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
It's been great.